Welcome back to the Butler Beat. I'm Akira Jennings. Butler University and the Christian Theological Seminary are partnering to create the new Desmond Tutu Center. Archbishop Desmond Tutu is a world-renowned anti-apartheid leader who recently spoke at Butler. Here to talk about the new center and its role in the Butler community is Dr. Jay Howard, Dean of Butler's College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. Hi, Dr. Howard. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Pleasure to
Wonderful.
be joining you.
So what inspired the creation of the Desmond Tutu Center?
What inspired the creation of the center? Well, I think the legacy of Desmond Tutu is a commitment to social justice, to peace, to reconciliation, and those align very nicely with the historical values of Butler as a university. So I think locating the Desmond Tutu Center here and at CTS makes perfect sense because of those values that we have in common.
So what went into the planning process for the center?
Well, a lot went into the planning process and continues to go into the planning process, as the planning process is ongoing. Started with an invitation from the president of CTS, President Bolton, to President Danko to have conversations about, first, the possibility of hiring the Reverend Alan Busak as a professor at Butler. And that evolved into him becoming the Desmond Tutu Chair at Butler. And that evolved into him being the director of a new center called the Desmond Tutu Center and when I say at Butler, I mean at Butler and CTS, but I'm a Butler dean, so I'm always going to say Butler first. So those conversations between the presidents then expanded to involve a number of faculty members, both at Christian Theological Seminary and at Butler, and people tended to agree. We think this makes sense, that it's a historic and wonderful opportunity for both institutions.
Yes, I would agree. So when is the center expected to be open?
Well, you're going to find I'm going to answer a lot of your questions with that remains to be seen precisely, as we really are in the formative stages of developing the Desmond Tutu Center. Dr. Busak will be the director. We're having conversations about what will be the governance structure. Probably there'll be an internal advisory board consisting of faculty from both institutions. There very likely will be an external advisory board involving people from not only around the nation, but potentially around the world. So the exact nature of that structure remains to be determined. I mean, when you develop something like this, you have to have a lot of faculty input and buy-in and participation in the formative creative process as well. So that's going to take a little while to get figured out in precise terms. And I think that the same thing applies to the programming of the Desmond Tutu Center. Those are, we have some general ideas of what we think it's going to look like, but I think we'll also be pleasantly surprised with some of the ideas and initiatives that come forward as we increase the involvement of faculty in the discussions.
So what will Reverend Busak's role be as the Desmond Tutu Chair for Peace, Global Justice, and Reconciliation Studies?
Well, he'll be the initial director, the founding director of the center. So he'll have a very significant role in working with the other participants on what's likely to be that internal and external advisory board, both to lay out the vision in more concrete terms. We know clearly the vision is to carry on the legacy of Archbishop Emeritus Tutu and his commitment to those very things, to peace, to global justice, to reconciliation. But how do we translate that into practical action? Well, that is part of the conversation that is going to happen. And a number of ideas that Alan and other faculty have are things like an annual conference that will both bring together scholars in this area as well as activists from around the world, from areas that we might refer to as hot spots where there is conflict, and what are the lessons that we've learned from other areas of conflict about how to promote reconciliation in a way that takes into consideration justice, and to help potentially young leaders in those kinds of environments develop skills that can help lead to the desired ends.
So will there be any leadership programming for Butler students?
Well, there'll be lots of opportunity, I think, for Butler students to be involved in the Tutu Center. We're looking at a number of potential projects that perhaps may involve faculty. As one of the things that's important to remember is we already have at Butler a wide range of programs and faculty and student groups that are interested in issues that are very much related to the kinds of themes that we expect to develop through the Tutu Center. So for example, we have a peace and conflict studies major and minor at Butler, and we have faculty members that do research in that area and that involves students in that research about how to promote peace and justice and how to resolve conflict around the world. So I expect we're going to see students very much involved in those kinds of initiatives.
So will there be any service or mission trips associated with the center?
Again, I'm going to qualify my answer and say very likely yes. But the part of the challenge is there are so many good ideas about what can be done in the way of programming with the Desmond Tutu Center that you can't jump in and do everything right away in the first 6 months. So part of the challenge of these advisory groups is going to be figuring out, well, we've got a half a dozen or 20 great ideas. Which ones do we tackle first? And how do we get the Tutu Center off to a very good, very quick start to begin to be able to make some impact? But I think that those initial programming won't be the only programming that will eventually arise from the Tutu Center. I think there'll be plenty of opportunity for creative evolution of ideas and programs.
So a part of the creative evolution of programs, do you think community building will be a major target or goal?
Yes, I think so. In those early conversations, we've talked a lot about how the Tutu Center not only needs to have an international reach, which we see as a very good and very desirable thing, but we also want the Tutu Center to have a very positive impact in Indianapolis and the greater Indianapolis area as well. So we're already beginning to explore those kinds of ways of, okay, how can we take this vision for peace and global justice and reconciliation and operationalize it and bring it to life in our own community as well as around the world. So we'll be looking for partners both in the religious community, communities of faith around Indianapolis, and also on other groups that don't necessarily come to these issues with a faith-based perspective but have the same commitment to peace and justice and reconciliation.
So when Archbishop Desmond Tutu came to visit Butler University and speak, did he know that a center was going to be created in his honor?
Oh yeah, he knew it was coming, right? This is the sort of thing you have to have his permission before you can put his name on it. So yes, he did know.
Were you able to meet with the Archbishop?
I was able to attend the lecture at Clues Hall, and I was also able to attend a luncheon with him. Didn't get to shake his hand, as everybody wanted to crowd around and greet the Archbishop. Got within a couple of feet of him, and so, but I feel very privileged to have done that.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today,
My
Dr.
pleasure.
Howard.
Great to be here.
Thanks for joining me today. I'm Akira Jennings, and you've been watching The Butler Beat.